All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight is the Town Council regular meeting, Wednesday, March 15th, 2023, at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Green Room. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on to item number 2, visitors. Are there any visitors that would like to be recognized at this time? Any visitors? Hearing none, we will then move on to item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes of the March 2 meetings, the March 1st, 2023, and the March 8th, 2023 meetings. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussions?
Is
that yes?
Say something? Well,
Yeah.
Yes.
do either one of you want to say something
No. What do you want to say?
about the wording of the, in the minutes, the wording of the cut that we made to the proposed increase in the Board of Education budget? In the minutes, it reads that there was a $350,000 cut made to the, did it say operation budget of the BOE?
That's what we
Yeah,
had.
it doesn't, it sounds as if we're taking them in a negative direction, as if we took money away that they already had. The minutes don't make it clear.
I didn't interpret that. I didn't interpret it that way.
Just so we're clear.
I guarantee you that the general public reading it would interpret it that way. You know that what we did was to take back a little of what the proposed increase to their
Right.
operating budget
Yeah, the
was.
proposed increase,
But
right.
the way the minutes read, it sounds like we're cutting the operations
You have
budget
it? Can you read
right
it?
now.
I'll read it. I have the motion, and then we,
Thank you.
want me to read the motion, and then we can talk?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just,
Well, it
okay.
should-
Well, read
So-
the minutes too.
Yeah, this is the minutes, right here.
Okay.
Okay, the council discussed reducing the operating budget increase.
What-
Tom Hollinger recommended reducing the operation budget by $350,000. Tom Hollinger made a motion, seconded by Dennis Donovan, to reduce the Board of Education's operating budget by $350,000. The motion passed with a vote of 4 in favor, Donovan, Hollinger, Walter Teske, and 2 opposed, Alan Pesante. That's the motion. That's how it reads.
See, that's what I'm saying. The minutes make it sound like we cut their operating budget.
We did.
Yeah, but
No, we cut the increase to the
She's
20.
The
right.
budget included the increase. Take a look at last year's budget, this year's budget. We cut it $350,000. I don't understand why, I'm not
Okay,
confused
all
by
right,
it.
okay.
What does it say? I mean, this
That's
is-
a broad sweep there.
But this came from the recording.
That motion is from the recording.
No, I understand what you
So there's
have
really
is
not-
That's
correct.
the motion that Tom said.
So then we're good.
I
You
understand.
can't change the motion if that's what was made and recorded.
No, I understand the wording is correct. I was just wondering if there was any way to,
Well, I would just say that when the town hearing comes on April 5th, I think it is, or 6th, what is it, 6th or 5th?
I think-
5th, that we just explain that to the people a little bit more specifically. And say,
Okay.
remember, folks, that this is not cutting their present budget by any means or anything from what they have already. This is just reducing their
Their proposed
increase.
increase.
their proposed
Their proposed
increase. Right,
increase, that's all.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't, you know,
Okay.
I think I think it'd be better there anyways, because quite frankly, if you change these minutes, who's gonna read these minutes?
Well, you can't,
Nobody
yeah,
reads these
yeah.
minutes.
You're right.
So, but if
Whoa,
we
whoa,
do
whoa,
it
whoa.
to town,
I read them.
but,
They all do.
other
they've
than
done
us,
very
I'll
well.
take that back, other than us. But if we make it a point at the town hearing to make sure we get that point
Yeah.
across, Carol, I
Okay.
think we'll be
All
better
right,
off.
that's
Okay.
fine.
Any other further
Very
discussion?
good, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you all. Item number 4, appointments and reappointments. These are all appointments that we have on the agenda for this evening. The first one is Ben Martin. Ben here? You, Ben? You're on the firing seat. Oh, Brett, sorry, my fault. So Brett's going to, looking to be appointed to the Sustainability Committee for a full seat for a term until 6/30/2024. Do we have any questions for the fine young gentleman that wants to get on this committee?
No, I think, I'd like to applaud the fact that somebody under 83 to help out with the town. That's fantastic, young man.
I like it.
I'm glad to see that Mr. Bergman has taught you well. He's a good
Mentor.
Mentor, thank you, that's the word I was looking for, but no.
Anybody
nice.
else?
I have no questions.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you again, Brett, for stepping forward. Next up is Susan Connell for Sustainability Committee, full seat, term 6/30.
I know, I gotta back off on that. I'm sure you're not 83.
Dennis, you say thank you for the experience now.
There you
Sustainability.
There you
Yeah,
go.
you've been
There you
experienced.
go. Spoken well. sir.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Susan?
No, I have not.
All right.
Welcome aboard also,
All
thank
right,
you.
all right, we have a motion to approve, to appoint.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Again, thank you, and thank you for stepping
Thank
forward.
you both.
And lastly, we have Warren Best for the Harbor Commission for a term until 6/30/2024. Warren is here. Do we have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, look at that. See how easy it is?
Nice, thank you.
Thank you for
All right.
coming, though.
Do we have a motion to appoint?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, yes.
So you wanna stay for the rest of the meeting, you're more than
Town clerk's
welcome.
office upstairs.
I'm
So
sorry?
before you can attend your first meeting, you have to get sworn in.
Okay.
Okay, so town clerk upstairs here in the town hall.
And they're open till 7 o'clock on Thursdays.
Thursdays till 7.
Okay.
And other than that, they're 4 o'clock every day.
Okay.
Thank you again, everyone, for
Thank
stepping forward.
It's a very good thing that they do.
And then coastal resiliency, we've talked about before, we've had some people. I don't know if we've gotten anybody else new. We did have one that submitted his name, I guess. Tom Welch would like to be appointed to this committee. Lives down, obviously, on.
Lives in the floodplain.
on Grove Street, so he's put his name forth that he'd be interested in serving on this committee, or this task force. Has anybody else, have you gotten any other names?
I'm still waiting for boards and commissions to give me their names, so planning and zoning had a name, that individual withdrew, so planning and zoning needs to make a determination as to whether they're gonna participate in this at all. Some other members of the general public have come out of the woodwork looking, expressing interest. And I assume with the appointments made tonight to sustainability, I'll get a name forward from sustainability. They want to put somebody on, and I'm assuming that what you just did clears the way for that.
Okay, all right, so at least we have some names, so.
Has there been any outreach to marinas for a representative from a marina? Because they have a lot
Right.
of considerations here, too.
Yeah, we've got somebody who represents a beach association, but we don't have anybody who's come out of the woodwork from.
You know, Chris Shapiro was so active in,
Well, I mean, we have, what, 4 or 5, I mean, so.
yeah, but I think a marina owner would be,
Yep.
they're seeing it from day to day.
day.
So how could we enlist a marina owner?
Contact them, see if they'd have any interest.
And who would do that? I'm
Would you like me to call
whittling
Chris?
it down here.
I mean, I can call Chris,
Oh, would you?
sure.
That would be great.
If no one on this particular council is interested in doing that, then I will volunteer to do the coastal resiliency. But I will also leave it open for anyone else interested.
That's fine.
Like I said, I'm not gonna be coastline for another 20 years.
No.
Okay.
I just got that.
You
You
live
won't be
here,
here.
Tom. You live
I
here.
won't be for a long time.
All right, so then we'll just keep that on the agenda. Hopefully for next meeting, we can kind of round it. We have 7 people, is that what 7 members?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 members, and
Okay.
a couple alternates.
Yep. All right, so we'll
Did
keep that
you
on.
wanna- Did we want to appoint Tom today, or? what?
No, let's wait till we get a
Okay.
full vote and do it at once.
Whatever you want to do.
All right, so then we're good there. All right, we'll move on to item number 5, which is the approval of the congressionally directed sending application.
So, this congressionally directed spending is the terminology used previously for earmarks. This is where individuals would make requests of their congressional delegation to support funding that would support activities in district. So, this is the 3rd year of it. You can apply to the two senators have a uniform application process, or we would apply to Representative Courtney's office. The House and the Senate have different buckets that are available, so you got to kind of navigate what funding source you can leverage. The idea is that you got stuff that's ready to go, you've got local match if there's a local match required under the program, and you're in alignment. So for us, the project that is shovel-ready and we have match for and fits one of the potential funding buckets would be the radio project. And in this case, it would zero in solely on a police expense for the subscriber units, which is the radios that they're wearing their shoulder or they're talking to. So it's a way to try and pull in some additional federal money. The process would be you come in, then they would vet it at the state or district level for projects that would go forward. Then that goes forward to an individual subcommittee of cognizance for the funding streams. They would duke it out there, decide what happens and what does not get funded, and then ultimately it works its way through the federal budget. So the request is now, but we wouldn't find out until November, December, assuming there's a federal budget on time, that you got funded or not. So carries an element of risk.
Okay. So basically, you just need,
As with any grant, I need the council to bless that you want to proceed with this and you endorse the grant
Motion to
application.
proceed.
okay, you good with moving forward with it?
Oh, yeah.
What element of risk does it carry?
That doesn't get funded.
Oh, that's all, okay, all right.
Yeah, we gotta know.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move forward with that then. All right. Good.
Yep, that's great.
Did you say you needed a motion or no?
No, just authorization?
I need authorization, so if you all voted yes, that would be helpful.
All right,
Okay.
so we make a motion then?
Yeah, let's make a motion, sure.
Motion approved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Okay, item number 6, Finance Director's Report. Sue?
Yeah, hi, everybody.
Hello.
Results in front of you are for the 8 months ending February. I'll start with the revenue highlights for the month of February. Total revenues for the month were $1.8 million, which included $1.4 million of tax revenues, $195,000 received for the special education grant, $117,000 of other revenues, which was mainly investment income, and $78,000 for town services. I'd like to note the special education grant of the $195,000 that was received is short of what we had budgeted. We had budgeted $407,000, so it was a shortfall of $200,000. We have been told there will be a supplemental payment to that grant in June. The state can't tell us how much that will be, but I do anticipate that grant to be a shortfall for this year. Of the $78,000 town service revenues, 42 of that was the town clerk fees, but that did include, half of that was an accounting adjustment that had to be made in February. $18,000 for the building fees, boat moorings of 12, and $3,000 for the transfer station fees. The other revenues of 117, like I said, was mainly 110 for investment income. The year-to-date results for the 8 months. The current tax levy collections are 99% of the fiscal year 23 budget, which is the same as of last year at this time. The total for all other tax revenue categories for the 8 months, that's your prior year taxes, supplemental motor vehicle, and interest liens and fees, is $1.1 million for the 8 months ending February. That's $440,000 over the budget, $63,000 less than last year at this time. The town service revenues for the 8 months in total were $630,000. They're 74% of the fiscal year 23 budget to date, and also are trending less than last year, about $161,000 at the same time last year. You can see my written report for more detail on the individual categories. The other revenue category that I always bring up for the 8 months is $548,000, and that includes mainly investment income of $400,000 for the 8 months. The other revenue items in that were reported in previous months, and they include the 41 of the workers' comp refund and 21 of the Waseam Trust distribution. Total general fund revenues across all categories are 93% of the fiscal year 23 budget for the 8 months. compared to 91% at the same time last year. Moving on to expenses, the month of February expenses were just the normal recurring expenses, 3.6 million for the month, 2.6 of that with was the education transfers, 720,000 for fringe and salary benefits, 100,000 for utilities and fuel. You can see my report for further information on that. For the 8 months ending February, there's 67% in total, the expenses of the fiscal year 23 budget compared to 65% last year. So trending pretty much the same. The investment balances, you can see the separate schedule in my report, were 38.8 million at the end of February. Approximately 5 million of that balance are restricted funds because that's for the ARPA and the bonding projects that are dedicated to those things. You can see my schedule as well for more information on how that's broken down by categories. Contingency and fund balance are unchanged from the prior month. Contingency is 147,000, and unassigned fund balance remains at 16.7 million, 7.8 over the town's targeted amount. And for ARPA funds, you can also look at that schedule. We expended $515,000 of those funds as of mid-March. The finance office, as we're entering the fourth quarter of fiscal year 23, I'll start reviewing for line item coverage transfers that are needed to cover some overages. I don't expect any, at this point, significant overages. There are some for WASAM overtime. That was just a budget miss last year. So we'll be having to do a transfer for that, as well as expenses for the fire pension and the OPEB trust. And the reason those are over is because this was the biannual valuation that we needed to have done, and the expenses for those reports are coming in higher than what was budgeted. But I think all those line item transfers will be able to be taken care of within those budgets. Other than that, the fiscal year 24 budget with the town council adjustments has been given to Harbor News for its posting on 3/23. So that's all set. That's my report. Any questions?
Thanks, Sue.
Have you been able to project out what you think the total revenue for the year is going to be? Are we going to meet budget? I notice we're down in 2 items, but our investment income is way over.
Yes.
It looks like it offsets the 2 major losses.
Right now, I expect, the tax collections are coming in pretty much what had been anticipated. Right now, all the state grants, except for the special education, I don't see any issues there.
Okay.
Town service revenues, they are coming in over budget. They're less than last year, but they still are over budget.
Right.
So, I would say that we'll be fine in those categories. And expenses are trending as to what they normally
Gotcha.
are. Yeah.
Anybody else?
The reimbursements, are we expecting reimbursements for the bridges? Does that happen like 5 years from now? How does that work?
We've been getting them all along, but they don't go into the general fund. They go into the special bonding projects fund that was set up for the bridges. So yeah, we've received a good chunk of already. Pleasant Valley we received up front. So we received everything for that. We do anticipate to receive another amount for that, of less than 100,000 once that bridge is completely with its filings. Kelsey Town and Carter Hill. The engineer has been submitting reports all along, and we've been receiving funds continually on that. I mean, if you need a dollar amount, I can give them to you, but we've been receiving it. He's on top of all those.
Fantastic. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right, thank you, Sue. Item 7, Chairman's reports. Nothing really. We did get a thank you note for our donation to the Morgan School that we've given $1,500. So just so everybody knows, they did send us a thank you for the donation on behalf of the town council.
Nice.
That is it for me. The town manager's report is next, number 8.
So a couple of things. You have my written report. Charter Revision Commission met to discuss the direction that the council gave when you provided them additional guidance, which was to look in at the dollar amount for how much can be especially appropriated at a town meeting versus going up with a referendum. The recommendation was taken up to $700,000. The commission has concurred with that. So the their report will be now finalized and submitted to town clerk as a record. Town council's next step would be to have a vote on the report in its entirety, thumbs up, thumbs down. There's no more tweaking anymore. You're accepting the whole thing or you're rejecting the whole thing. And then you would set up picking questions and lining up for the November election. So there'll be more to come on that. We did get some good news from Representative Courtney's office, from local efforts to flag it as an issue and his staff and his intervention. We were able to get the attention of the Army Corps of Engineers to do some dredging in their upcoming work plan to dredge some of the hot spots in Britain Harbor, which are immediate navigation channel concerns. We're still looking for Army Corps to tackle a larger project of a full-blown dredge, and hopefully that could be included in their federal fiscal year 24 work plan. So the representative has been helpful in getting this much done, and hopefully we can get the next part of the project completed by doing a full rounded out dredge rather than just a partial. Under hiring, just so you're aware, David Melillo, the Human Services Director, announced that he will be retiring on July 14th. So we will start a hiring process for his replacement. Human Services Commission would like to see some degree of overlap. I'm not sure how that will work out or how it will coincide with the budget, but we will get the hiring process started to select a replacement for David when he ultimately retires at the beginning of the new fiscal year. The funding that the council provided to round out the additional permitting for the landfill closure, that permitting has now been submitted to DEP, and hopefully that will expedite their review. Also on the DEP front, we did apply 8 months ago to get a permit to accept food scraps and recycle them into leaf compost. After following up with their staff, it appears as if our project has now been identified as a high priority to be considered. So I'm hoping that will move it from the limbo that it's been in for the past 3 months to something that actually gets approved, since this is the state's policy direction. On the other front, outside of Clinton, CCM is, doing their advocacy on state bills, flagging things that are problematic. So there's a number of bills that are being assessed. Early voting is a topic of conversation that, while there was a big push to get it moving, may not go anywhere in the short term. There was a big push previously to amend how motor vehicles were assessed. Then it was determined that all of the technology and the computers that need to support that need to be upgraded first. So there may be a bill that delays how motor vehicles get assessed while technology catches up with a political will to do something. So there's a lot of moving pieces up in Hartford at present. Some of them that are problematic are probably the governor's bill on solid waste, which would charge an additional fee on top of any tip fee if garbage is exported out of the state of Connecticut. So that's a direct increase to taxpayers having to shoulder more of the garbage cost to ship garbage out of the state of Connecticut. There are other pieces with MIRA that are also problematic, which I flagged before, which sweeps some of the MIRA balances, which you could argue we have a right to as a member of MIRA. And under current legislation, should not be swept to go to one municipality. They should go to benefit all. But those are all topics of conversation up in Hartford. The Transit District is continuing to move forward with its merger. Fare collection will start back up again on April 1st. It's been free for a while now. The governor's push to make it free will expire on April 1st, so those taking the bus will need to start paying for the bus again. The only other item I have as a potential add is I received an email from the chairman of the Park and Rec Commission regarding extending the contract to have a concessionaire down at the beach. Last year it was was successful for that vendor. The commission is looking to extend that for another year, again, under the proviso that there is no rent charged for the individual operator to run out of the concession stand. Their policy is that it shouldn't be a moneymaker, it should be viewed as an amenity. And it's been a rocky experience out there of not having consistency. So the goal is getting some degree of consistency. So if the council is fine with continuing under the same terms and conditions we operated under last year, we would operate under that again this year and not have a hiccup trying to find a vendor going into the summer months.
How about the one by the marina? Do we charge rent for that?
Lives.
Lives, he has a separate lease agreement and he does pay us a rent.
And they're coming back this year.
Correct.
So you need direction on the beach?
On the beach, I just need concurrence that the same deal we had last year works for this year.
Good.
He did a good job.
Yeah.
Paul did a really good job.
And that's it.
All right, thank you. Questions for Carl?
Is the Pearson RFP ground floor ask getting any easier? Is it, you said that that's causing a great deal of problem.
It's going to be problematic, so just in terms of expectations management, the belief that you are going to be able to retain the first floor is going to be an issue.
Do you think that we need to, if it's going to be a big issue, do you think we need to rethink that, or
Is it
doable?
Is it creating a problem putting the RFP together to that degree?
It makes it more challenging because I'm asking somebody to give me a proposal and not tie their hands to do it, not do it, and give them a fair evaluation. So I'm trying to create, it's not the proposal, it's going to be the rating and ranking and the review process of how you're going to review these if somebody does not go with this notion of turning over the basement floor or some portion of it. So that's, how you write that is a little bit more challenging because it is not going to be a slam dunk as was suggested earlier. So,
Challenging, but is it a showstopper?
not a showstopper for me to be able to write it. Whether the market responds is another matter.
I guess we can get a second crack at it, right, if it doesn't work.
Correct. So I'm trying to inject flexibility so that you can, the development community can respond one of two ways.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, we will move on to council discussion. Anything the council would like to discuss this evening?
I would like to discuss, without being contentious, but trying to understand the process of the budget. We began in September, we had a meeting, and then we had a meeting in October. We set a 2.5 increase request to the town and the school. I understood that part. What I didn't understand was how the process, and I assume I'm calling it the process, was so upended last Wednesday when we asked for, instead of a 2.5, we cut it to a 1.5. We didn't do that last year. Is this, it didn't even seem like a process anymore. Why did we ask in September and October for something that we weren't happy with?
Is this an open discussion, or do you want to address this, Chris?
Well, it's a council discussion, I was just going to let her
Council
finish.
discussion, yeah. And I ask respectfully to have that explained.
The budget process has sort of always kind of been the same since obviously Carl has been here, where we've changed it since he's been here because we wanted it to be more proactive amongst the council so that everybody sort of knew where we were going and where we were heading. So on the town side, on the Board of Education side, first years, not gonna lie, were very rocky, let's say, because I don't think we sort of knew kind of what we were supposed to do. Because we had a town manager, he dealt with the department heads, he brought a budget to us, there no longer was a Board of Finance, we were the quasi Board of Finance, so we would have those discussions. So the process of it all, and what we tried to do early in the process was kind of get a ballpark idea of where we would want to be with that budget. Just like Carl presented to us the town side budget, we were nowhere near that now. So his initial numbers for us that he presented to us have always changed from A to B. So he presents that initial budget where we make changes, whether it be capital, whether it be some suggestions that he presents to us, there are changes to the town side budget as well. So as far as the school budget goes and the Board of Education budget, it basically works the same way. There's no difference in how we would approach that budget, whether or not we would like to make adjustments to their ask. That was always an option. So yes, it's not something when we say whenever our meeting was, that meeting was when we said we would like to be at 2.5. That's not the end of their budget. Just like when Carl brings the operational side budget to us, that's not the end of that budget. That opens up the budget discussions on where we would like to be, because we continue to have discussions on where we want to be with our mill rate. So it's not the end of the story. It's basically, here's where we start, and Carl had given us that number initially, where we would be with that mill rate. That mill rate's changed now, because we've made adjustments to that budget, both on the operational side, and then making some adjustments. I mean, does it happen that often where on the education side, we make sort of some, and again, we can't tell the Board of Education side what to do. Can't tell them, get rid of this person, get rid of that person, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. If there's adjustments we would like to make, then that request is put forth for them to adjust it.
We would have done that at last meeting?
And that's the last meeting what we did. So, I mean, I think the gasp in the room was that, why was that done? Well, I think it was, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but again, I think that discussion and an open, honest discussion about how we do our budgets going forward, there's give and take all over. And if we're struggling and we want our mill rate to be as little bit of an increase as possible so that the public's not getting a big hit on the taxes, and I think some of it has to come to both sides, and I think maybe that's sort of when the direction went that way. I don't think we did anything out of the ordinary. I think, were they upset maybe that happened? I guess they were. But I don't think we did anything that we didn't have the ability to do, because we do that on the town side. So when Carl, when he gave us that initial budget and said, this is our increase on the town side, then we tackled the capital projects, we tackled what other cuts we could make in other areas where, Carl had given us some opportunities and options on what we can do. So then we did cut that side as well. So.
I definitely understand the moving around and the balancing. But I don't understand how we change our ask.
Wait, can I interject
When we
a thought here?
ask for what, 2.5?
That,
And then
Yeah.
it was my ask.
the 2.5 is not bring it in at 2.5. The 2.5 is a suggested maximum that we would like to have presented to us. That is not cast in concrete. Maybe you remember that night when I said I wanted like 1.25 or 1.5.
You
Chris
wanted
said we
0.
can revisit it later. This is not the end of the discussion. And so 2.5 is not the end of discussion. That is the fact that we don't want to see anything over 2.5. That doesn't mean bring it in that you have to bring it in at 2.5%. That is the level beyond which we don't want to see for sure.
And yet the town brought it in at 5.9.
And we
We adjusted it, so
adjusted
it's
that
no longer at that.
accordingly. Yeah.
I do have problems with the ask part. Why ask me?
Well, that was a decision by the council. That was a very lengthy discussion.
That's how I feel,
Right.
just
You mean
to
ask them back
register
in
it.
November?
Yeah, and
Why did we
in
ask them back in
September
November?
and in October. Why ask for a number?
Because if they
Put
come
some
in,
basic budget direction in
Right.
play. The point of the forecast, which is it's a forecast.
I remember the forecast.
Just like the weatherman tells us we're going to get 12 to 18 inches of snow, and that turns out to be nothing down here. Here is where we think it could go, given certain parameters. So the idea was just to model out here's where it could go, so you're aware, long-term, not just the budget that's right in front of you, but over time, what the town could be looking at in terms of headwinds or successes, or how your expenses are gonna roll out over time. The goal was to try and put some direction so that when Mary Ann's doing her work with the Board of Ed, they kind of have an idea of where they should be zeroing in on. And we both said that evening, if we can make it, we will make it. If we can't make it, we'll explain why. So that was how we left it, to say, here's where the budget could go, here's what pressures are pushing on different parts of the budget as they were known at that point in time. Obviously, things change from when I put that together in October to when the budget rolled out in February and into now March. So the point of that meeting was just to telegraph, hey, council, pay attention. This is where things are going. Please give us some input. That's the whole point of the exercise, was to get input. It wasn't to have something written in stone. It was to give us some input as we work on it, so we know where we're going when we put the budget together.
I mean, the budget itself is a work in progress. I mean, we talk about it in October, November, that's the beginning stages. And I think it makes sense, and that's never happened before. When Carl came on board, that was one of the first things that we talked about, was that this is something that we need to start earlier. Because, again, if you don't have those conversations in November about kind of forecasting and where the town's gonna be, then you're at a meeting like we were a couple weeks ago and say, oh, no, forget it, we don't, you've done, we don't want you to be anywhere near that number, but they've already done a lot of their work. So the initial ask, the initial estimate that we would like to see is something that they can then work towards while they're doing their work. Because it became problematic because they didn't know kind of where the council was. So now this benefit would be to them and to everybody else on kind of where we would like to see it headed. So that's all it is. And again, it's not the end budget. I mean, it's still not the end budget. So I mean, at the end of the day, this is not it. We still have a public hearing, we still have other things that we need to address. So, again, it's a continued work in progress. And yes, does it seem like, I sometimes I just don't understand how, it's like nobody's picking on anybody, and sometimes it makes it seem like that. I don't like the fact that our town has two budgets, but we do. So, we have an education budget, we have an operation budget, and that's the way it's set up in the town. And a lot of times, as you can tell, I mean, this is no secret, when you drive around town during budget season, there's a lot of PTA signs all over the place and vote for the education budget, and there's not many vote for the operational budget. And this town has, in the past, had some pretty, suspect votes as it related to budgets, where the education budget passed, but we didn't have an operational budget for 2 or 3 or 4 times, because they wanted just to keep cutting it and cutting it and cutting it. So if you can't have it on both sides, then it's very difficult. So I think this process that we've instituted helps us have a level playing ground. So at least we're having a conversation so that they all know we're all working together. Yes, there's 2 separate budgets, but it's one budget. Ultimately, it's, how this town can operate, because obviously the revenue that we generate on the town side has to go for paying everything. So,
Chris, let me ask you, just, I think I understand the last meeting. So going forward, we have one, so basically we have like a month break right now, and then I just can't remember specifically. So we have like one more meeting where we meet before it goes, or no?
public hearing is April 5th.
Public hearing.
So the last meeting,
That's a list.
we identified the budget amounts. So the
Yep.
2 amounts that we have for the town budget, for the education budget, those are going to public hearing. So then the public can speak on behalf of those to think if they're comfortable with those numbers. And then at that point, after that public hearing, we normally have the meeting that night.
Yes.
We meet right after the public hearing and we say, are we good here? Are we not good here? What do we do?
So last year, I think at that meeting, we did make some slight adjustments. So if we wanted, for example, if we wanted to have the mill rate be constant and takes a little bit extra money here or there, that would be, depending on what the town does, that's where we would discuss it and decide whether to vote on that or not as a council.
That's what you did last year.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Just
Yep.
wondering, just want to make sure.
That's what I mean. So it's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's good. It's good that we have these conversations as we go forward. Instead of just
It's a work in progress for us through April 5th, and then when we're done, then we put it to the town to
Then
vote.
it goes to
Correct.
referendum.
Then it goes to referendum. Yep. So,
That's in May.
So yes, it's not, and again, should there be an ask of, that department and that side of the budget? I think, yes, it helps. It's helpful to them. I think at this point, at least they know kind of what the council consensus is, as far as what we were hoping for. But again, there was some, just like it was a 2.5 number, there was also a lot of ones. There was also a lot of 1.5s. There was a lot of discussion. So there's give and take amongst the council on where we wanted to be with that final kind of number. So, again, like anything, I think it's something that is beneficial that we have these discussions. But understanding the fact that it is a work in progress, it's not something that these meetings, the reason we have these budget workshops and these meetings and everything else, and there's a process, is for us to have the flexibility to do adjustments should we need to. So, again, what we've done so far is what we've done. We're putting those numbers to public hearing on the 5th. If we come out of that public hearing, if we hear from the people that there's some things we need to tweak or adjust, then we have those discussions. And then we go to referendum.
There's one more thing I'd like to bring up, and you're tired of hearing me bring it up, but I'm going to. The unassigned fund balance, 2 years ago, you, the first council, spent $2.7 million from that unassigned fund balance, taking it down to $88,000. That was 15.1% 2 years ago. In 2 years, it's gone from 88,000 to 7.78 million.
No.
That doesn't sound right.
I looked at the financial report.
88,000 is not 15% of fund balance.
It's what it went down to 15.1%.
Yeah.
And in the report, I did read 88, maybe 880. But
Well, here's the thing.
here's the thing, 15.1% you took it down to.
Okay, but if that's the case, and that was, what year did you say, 2 years ago?
2021, just
2021, so
after
that
you
would've
got
been-
the Morgan payment.
Okay, after we got the mortgage payment?
Yeah, you got that in February.
Okay, so then since then, the town's generated no sales, no income, so how did we get to 7 million?
That's my question.
Well, that's why I'm thinking the numbers are there's something wrong. I think we have to
Well-
look at that if we're concerned about it, because the only thing that goes into that fund is money that the town generates, money
Budget
from the
surplus.
sales.
Taxes, surplus schools, surplus, yeah.
So,
We haven't had
But-
7 million in surplus.
no, not from the 2 years.
But we're running 2 this year, so if it was 2 each year for the 3 years, that would be 6 or 7.
Not 7 million,
Jeff,
700.
hang on
No,
one
no,
second.
no, we're running
Hang on one
two-
second. Sue.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, we put together that analysis, Carl, as to where the fund balance increase came from last year and this year.
Yeah, You've gotten 2 reports that tell you how it's grown.
Right.
You got
Well-
one last year and you got one last week.
And we don't, last year, we spent it down to 4.5 million, and now we have 7.7. That thing's growing fast.
But they were a lot of one-time special.
I don't, I
which
saw
aren't
this,
gonna happen again.
I saw the school was a one-time, and then I saw a FEMA payment of 178,000, but I didn't see a lot of one-times. That's a
What-
huge amount of growth.
But I don't know where we're getting, so I think maybe we
I'll
have
tell
to
you-
look at that again as a council and maybe.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Revisit all that, but ultimately, if we're getting back to let's just use all our fund balance to
No.
get to zero again. or
No, not like you did 2 years ago. You used it all then. I'm not
We did
asking,
use it. We
I'm
used
not
it for-
asking you to use it all
Right.
again.
And we used a lot then because the consensus of the council at that time was we were entering COVID, and we knew we wanted to do all we could to keep a zero increase.
And you're getting the Morgan School money.
And so that's the reason why the council had that discussion at that point. And again, we can continue to have these discussions every year. They're just not good discussions. And that's what I'll say, and that's what I will believe too, every year that we go into this, that using undesignated fund balance is a benefit, but to continue to use it to get our mill rate to zero or to flat is a financial nightmare. You can ask, not me, but if you can ask professionals that are in the industry at other towns, that's not how you run a town, because these are one-time amounts that we got. And we're setting ourselves up for disaster. We're setting ourselves up for 3 to 4 or 5 years down the road for a huge increase in our town tax. And then at that point, listen, that's what I care about. I may not be on this council at that point, but I'm gonna certainly speak to the fact that I will not bankrupt this town by taking undesignated fund balance and using that as our crutch to get to a zero mill rate. That is the wrong path to go. We've used it, we've allocated, we have used it, so it's not like we haven't used it, and we're doing it to help. But at the end of the day, if we're continually going to say, after we go to a public hearing, well, the public doesn't like taxes, so let's just take it from undesignated fund, we're gonna have an issue, because it will catch up to you.
Suicide pact.
It's financial suicide. You do not run a town that way.
Guys?
Because you cannot guarantee
My
the
first year on the
continue.
Board of Finance, it was, believe it or not, we held it on a town meeting. It wasn't even a referendum. And they made a decision to use the undesignated surplus to reduce taxes. And we were a junk bond town for years after that.
We do that every year. It's just a matter of how much we use.
Correct. But you have to be fiscally
Right, of
responsible for how
course.
much.
And I've never once said, spend down to 15%, like you did
We're
2
not-
years ago.
that's-
I've
Hopefully
never,
we have enough people on the council. that
I've
vote for
never,
it, so.
ever said that.
Talking about two guys here that are figured.
But it doesn't
that
mean we
is
can't talk
sacred.
about it.
We talk about it every year.
So-
I
so-
agree.
Right.
But again, we
Okay.
also
I
have to
talk about it
talk
again.
about, you know, the cuts. 'Cause
Oh, we've got some cuts.
I'd like to understand that story. You just said that you got it down to 15%, then we ran into trouble.
Yeah, we had no undesignated surplus.
Oh, you went to zero, you were even at 50%. Well, that's
Well, the
different.
issue, well, here's the issue now. The issue is this is 15% threshold that they want to see. Okay, not what Carl chooses, not what the council chooses, what the bonding companies want to see.
And that keeps
Because
going
that
up.
keeps our debt service,
Yeah, I got
obviously,
it. Yeah.
you don't understand it. So the issue is once we go below that, we have a problem. So
Yeah.
the issue's always been that, do we have the money available to use? Yes. But do we want to get to the threshold where we're close so that if something happens, say we have a monster storm and we got to pay $1.5 million because we paid up front, we get reimbursed from FEMA, which can take up to 18, 24 months to get our money back. We drop below 15%, we got a problem, because the bonding agencies will immediately jump on that, and they're going to sit there and tell you, your bond rating now is going to drop, your debt service payments are going to increase, that's going to be a tax obligation again, that's going to cause problems in town. So that's the picture you have to look at, because again, any disaster in town, we pay for up front. We have to cover that cost. We don't go to FEMA and say, oh, we need your money to help us pay for, you know, the super, you know, storm Sandy. No, we pay for that, and then we get reimbursed. We don't even get reimbursed 100%.
So we want to maintain a balance at a safe distance north of 15%.
That's all it
And
is.
what is that safe
I
distance?
think,
Well, that's
I
the
think
decision for the
that,
council.
that point too is, I think another way to look at it is there's a spectrum. So on one side is overspending and you know, making up projects like, well, we have this extra money, let's go in here, and that's overspending. On the other side, I think there's also, you know, driving that surplus up irresponsibly, which is basically, you know, when we keep the mill rate at a certain rate and values are going up, and we're putting surpluses in there, that's another side of it. So I think we have.
I gotta call you out on that. That is not how this budget gets put together. We are not building a budget with the intent of growing the surplus. That is a reckless comment, and it does not speak to the financial
But that
management.
is what's happening.
That is not the financial management that Sue and I have been trying to have as a discipline here. It has grown with a series of one-time events. You sold Morgan, that was a $2 million jump. You got a bunch of FEMA reimbursements that came in 2 years after the event. You got other grants that came in years after the event. You had COVID, which suppressed both Board of Ed spending and town spending. When we did the budget in response to COVID, there were some quick changes. You weren't on that council at that time. We dialed back revenues, looking at what the last recession was, trying to position the town so that we were going to land in if there was a COVID recession. There wasn't a COVID recession. Instead, things ballooned because people started buying houses to get away from dense areas like New York. People started improving their homes because they were looking at their home all the time. So things that we couldn't have even predicted is what happened.
I
We
understand
didn't
that,
build the
but
budget
there's-
assuming we were going to add and grow a fund balance. So I got to take exception with that because that reflects on the work that the staff does
I
to try and
didn't
put
say
together a
you're-
reasonable
I
budget.
didn't say you're planning to do that. The facts of the matter is, last year, I think that report that was, I think there was $970,000 that went in there. And this year, you've told us that there's a $2 million surplus. Those are just facts that are happening, and those aren't one-time deposits. So I don't think that you can just go with ignoring that that is happening. And so, like I said, it's a spectrum. You don't overspend and go in there. You also don't, on the other side of things, just keep accumulating those assets. So that's the discussion I think we have of what is going in there, and we have those 2-year reports. What's going in there, and how much do we want to take out in relation to what the mill rate is and what people are going to be taxed next year? That's how I look at it. And
So 15% of 60 million is 9 million, right? And so if you give yourself $1.5 million cushion for FEMA disaster or some hurricane, or you even give yourself $3 million cushion, you're at 12. But we're at 15.7 and going north, right?
Right.
So everybody agrees that we don't want to have a bond rating risk, and we do want to have some put aside. The question is this, which is a good conversation, how much? And we never say.
Well, I
At
think-
least I've only been here a short time, but we haven't said yet what our policy is. Do we want to be 100% over? We want 18 million? Maybe we do. Okay, then 18's the number.
We don't.
Well, I think that the thing that you'll learn going forward is we spend way too much time talking about it. Bottom line is if we're relying on an undesignated fund balance in order to determine our budget, that's a financial disaster.
I would say that we got to continue to talk about it until we set the number, until we say where's the right place.
Well, what's gone on in the past is that we come up with a mill rate, and then we say, well, we don't want taxes to go up, so let's just take anything out of undesignated fund balance and use that to offset the mill rate increase, and then we're at zero again. That's what this council has done the past two, kind of cycles, and that's a problem. That's a very big problem. So I would never support, and listen, I understand, see, the conversation that we tend to have a lot too is that we don't want taxes to increase in town. Understood. Nobody wants taxes to increase. Nobody would want to see their taxes go up. But unfortunately, it has to. Because at some point, it will, number one. And number two, when it does, it will not be pretty if we continue to do what we do, which is taking our undesignated and just apply it to get our mill rate to zero. Okay, people need to understand is that, I understand, we're in a recession, we have inflation, everything costs more money. I get all that. But we also have to figure out, do you want to do this for this year to say, we're going to take care of you this year? And this is what we've done the past couple of years because of the same situations, COVID, or everything that we faced. So we tried to help the public. But at some point, you have to understand that when that ends, that tax increase is not going to be little. So then at that point, do you want to go out there and tell people, oh, hey, listen, by the way, we've done great for 3 years, enjoy it while you can, because 2 years from now, we're going to be at an 8% increase. Because ultimately, it's going to happen, because you can't operate that way. It's just, it's checks and balances.
So back to the point, and I agree with the point that you don't go and fund, your priority isn't to lower taxes, your priority is to make sure that you have the proper fund balance. That's a balance sheet focus versus an income statement. So we're focused on the balance sheet. We want the balance sheet of this town to be healthy. And so if we set a number, let's pick a number, say we said it was 14 million, and then we only had 12, well, then we got to raise the mill rate to get our undesignated fund balance to where it needs to be. Conversely, if it's at 18 million, you lower the mill rate to get the fund balance to where it needs to be. So we could talk about it all day, but we should say where that fund balance should be and not leave it elusive like we have since I've been here.
Me too.
Well, I think the unfortunate thing is Carl has also given us a 5-year plan on what capital additions this town's going to have to do. And there's a couple of them that scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, agreed. And so there's another, and then I was going to ask that question. We should take it out of undesignated and create, I don't know that much about fund accounting, so, go create a fund, a capital expenditure fund, or maybe even for specific items. I see Indian River needs a new field service or something, that's $1.5 million. You say, okay, let's go put that in a reserve or a fund somewhere, and that's for 2025. So then you talk about it, you identify it, you list it, you do it. I'm full agreement.
Concession.
Having dedicated reserves like that would be good fiscal discipline.
Yeah.
That is not a conversation that this council's had.
Oh, we should have it.
Yeah, and we're all in agreement
We've all
that a strong
talked
balance
about-
sheet is important to us.
Wait,
We haven't talked about it.
We have not
Well-
talked about it.
I've talked to you about it, Carl.
Okay, that discussion's never
That's
happened.
between you and me. This group needs to have that conversation.
Well, we talked about having, because it's so high now,
So maybe we should set when we're gonna have it.
right after the budget.
It just, again, like I said, this is, these are the conversations we have, and I think there's more things that we do need to do. I, for one, yes, I don't want to be the one telling people that, hey, by the way, your taxes are going up. I mean, again, if we're at this year, we initially went into this, and I think it was $250 for the year. I think was the initial increase, which is a little lower because we used the $300,000 average house. So, I mean, yes, there will be an increase. Do I think that's a large increase that would make it difficult for people to kind of live on a daily basis? I don't.
For people's taxes.
You know, but then the struggle always becomes, oh, everything's costs more money, people need more money in their pockets, and now we want to get down, so we utilize an undesignated fund balance to get it to zero.
Win in November.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's not a good path to go down. So, I mean, if the council wants to have discussions about where they want to be on this undesignated fund balance,
Yeah.
because quite honestly, I'm tired of talking about it, because it becomes our focus on every budget. And it doesn't need to be our focus on every budget. Our focus on the budgets, obviously, there's expenditures, there's revenues, there's all these other things that come to the end budget. And those are things that we need to discuss. Those are things that if we were the Board of Finance that we no longer have, that would be discussed. Tom was on the Board of Finance. Those were things that needed to be discussed on the Board of Finance because they would put that together. The thing now is that Carl does all that for us, working with the department heads and doing all they can. And it's, so as the council, we're getting this information at the end. And now, it seems like our ultimate goal is, let's get to zero, let's get to zero, let's get to zero. And I get it, people are struggling, I get it. I'm not denying that fact. But I think fiscally responsible going forward so that you have a vision. That's why he gives us a 5-year forecast. And that 5-year forecast has some stuff in there. So if you're looking at the forecast, knowing 2, 3, 4 years down the road, we're going to have some things we need to pay for, then we got to kind of rein it in for the next couple of years and realize that we shouldn't be using that undesignated fund. So those are the conversations as well. You can't look at this year. This year is this year, it's done. We have to look at, that's why the 5-year forecast is the most important thing to look. I don't care what's going to happen this year, quite honestly. I care what's going to happen 3, 4 years down the road. Because this budget will determine that. Because if we know that things are coming and we're not preparing ourselves as a town for that, we're done. Because then what are we going to do? Then you want to bond for it, then you want to do it. I mean, there's all these other factors that play into it. And I guess as a council, those discussions need to be talked about more. So instead of talking about where we're going to be this year, and let's use that undesignated fund balance to get us there, let's talk about 3, 4 years down the road, when we have projects, Tom's obviously reviewed them, and see some of the things that are going to come down the road. That's what we have to look at. This isn't about year after year. This is about a long-term forecast for a town.
Yeah, maybe that's a separate conversation that we had, the
Well, one of
long-term
the
range,
things-
the long-range plan.
We keep missing the fact that when we figure out 15%, that's our spending budget. Whether we spend it with taxes or spend it with undesignated surplus, that is included in a $60 million budget. And if we keep going up every year, whether we take it from surplus or taxes, that keeps going up, that shrinks that number that we.
No, I get that, Matt. That's easy math. Yeah, so 15% on 61 million is more than 15%.
Exactly.
Right.
So you got to forecast
And then,
that.
by the way, we took some out of there, so now we're getting that much
So
closer.
that's all it is. I mean, it's-
What kind of curve do you want to have till we do hit that disaster of zero?
Yeah, that's well, I don't want this.
There you
Nobody
go.
wants that.
Well, that's why I think we
But
have to think.
we're nowhere near that.
We have to think that way. Well, take a look at that 5-year budget.
Right. Because you know it's coming. And again, if you're looking at one-time grabs, right? I mean, we're not selling it at a mortgage. We're not getting 2.2 million again in this town.
I don't think we're going to do that with Pearson.
Pearson, if I wouldn't even go there about how much money you think you're going to get on Pearson, because it's not going to be anywhere what people think we're going to get. So, but the fact is that we don't have anything that we have on our books that we're going to sell anytime, like, I can't tell you when, because we don't own anything. So these numbers that come into, that the town's going to generate aren't coming our way. So there's other things, yes, that we, will have to replenish that, but not at the way that we have maybe in the past. So that's why you need to be responsible in that path of what you're going to do. So, and again, you're right. These are conversations that as a council we need to look at. I think we need to spend more money and more time on looking at a forecast of the town.
And on economic development. As a council, we don't do anything on economic development.
We have an economic development commission that their responsibility is to deal with that. And I mean, in economic development, again, is very difficult. We don't own anything, so what are we gonna develop?
Yeah,
So then you gotta try to grab people. You can't say, it's like the Pearson thing. Well, we wanna sell Pearson, but we wanna do this on the bottom floor. You're immediately getting rid of people. You're immediately eliminating people from putting forth an offer on that project because we are putting our asks in something that we want to sell. So if I'm a developer, it was agreed upon by the council, they wanted to do it. But if I'm a developer and I'm looking at something, hey, let's buy this building, we want to put apartments, but the town wants to keep the bottom floor? I don't know. I
No,
mean,
thank
any
you.
smart developer would say pass.
Makes it a lot harder.
It makes it a lot harder.
I don't recall saying we wanted to keep the bottom floor. I recall a community component.
Okay, that, again, we can call it whatever we want to
Well,
call
I
it.
mean, that's not
but
the
again,
entire
a developer's
floor.
not gonna, a developer is probably not gonna develop something and then say, I'm gonna give you access to it free of charge, and you can use it whenever you want to use it. It's the same thing. I mean, you're strangleholding a developer that wants to go in and develop a property, but needs the income from that property to make it cash flow positive for them. They're developers, they're for profit. So holding them to some sort of, plan that the town may have, I get it. I mean, we wanted to put it out there. We hear now that it's very difficult to put that out on an RFP.
But we should
Because-
have heard that before this.
What, huh?
I did communicate that several times.
Yeah.
But
Well, it doesn't really, we need to send the RFP to see. There's no reason guessing what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, and we're trying.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a little bit difficult, so, but I mean, again, other than Pearson, that's what we own as a town right now. And if that, that's not gonna be a big money grab for our town, number one. Number two, other than that, we don't own anything. I mean, we've just struggled with this with the pickleball courts, where to put them. We don't own anything to put pickleball courts. We're very limited to where we can install these in town, because we don't own property. So economic development, we're relying on a developer or a business to come to our town based on what is available in our town. But that availability is not something that we own. The availability is a property owner that has space available to bring somebody in. So that's the difficulty that we have in our town. Our town is limited in the resources that we have. So would it be good, it's like going down and saying, we want to beautify Route 1. And it would be great. We can take the council, we can go on a tour, and we can go down Route 1, and we can say, we'd like to do this, we'd like to do that, we'd like to do this. Okay? The problem's gonna be is, we don't own that building, we don't own that building, we don't own that building.
Well, we could explain that the EDC got money from the state, and if $4 to $5 was gonna be paid for by the state, and private property, if they don't wanna do it, you can't make them do it.
The facade program.
Yeah.
It was a great program.
Yeah.
Great rendering, looked beautiful.
Can't get the private property
Nobody
owners
did
to do it.
Nobody did it.
And the money's sitting there, it's just gonna go to
We
waste.
have two that have been approved.
Not
It just
downtown.
wasn't in the
Yeah, right.
downtown that everybody was
I
focused
think
on.
you get that salon down the street, right? That nail
The
salon.
salons, yeah. So I mean, but these are the struggles that we have in our town. So that is why, I understand everything else and how we want to keep things on the budget side, but those are long-term goals, long-term looks that you have within a town. And then, yes, as we sit as council members, we sit here and in 4 years, we're up for reelection and you want to run again, you run again. But the reality is that, for me personally, I look at it down the road. What are we going to be down the road? 5 years from now?
I hope improved.
Well, I mean, I don't think again, yes, I hope so too. But I also hope then that the people that own these buildings in our town understand that you need to do something to it because it's it needs work. And again, to Hank's
So, yeah,
point,
we could
you've
have.
been on EDC.
Yeah, so
It's a struggle.
Carrot and stick, right?
Yeah,
Carrot would be tax breaks, which we did for Big Y, right? That there's not a lot of tools in the box for a town, but tax breaks is one of them. And then the stick is if someone's got a blight or a property that we can maybe go
Well, you have to
after.
look at what property is available for commercial use.
Yeah.
Dennis, you have something?
Not much.
Be a good conversation.
Well, I'm gonna go back to that budget just a little bit. Did we establish what the mill rate was gonna be after we did all that stuff a week ago? Like .30, was that like an honest
Yeah,
assessment?
that was our guess.
We guessed at that,
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's
close to that?
over 0.4% increase,
Half a mil.
0.46%, something like that.
The mill rate.
Yes.
So 4% of 29 is,
What are we, 29.83?
what's that again?
We're at 29.83.
So it's 0.4, right? It's not 4%.
0.4, not 4%.
So that's gonna go
So you
for
can do that
13.
math fastest.
We're at 29.83.
We're going over 30.
Still below what we were previous to COVID, if I'm not mistaken. Would that be correct? Yes. Thank you.
Which is what?
Prior to COVID, we were 32 change.
It's 32 back then.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're still
So-
below where we
Yeah, I
were.
understand, but I thought we had at least an idea of what Because at one time, we knew exactly it was gonna go up $209 per person on this $300,000 home, and then we did all this.
So
Stop
for-
the meeting before I could give you the math.
No, that's okay, no problem.
I'll send the math out if
So
you.
4/10% would be just about 30 even.
.30.
Yeah.
30
Okay,
mil
well,
rate.
that's basically what I thought, we all sort of thought, and basically what I'm trying to get to is,
Where we're at.
well, where we're at, and the fact that I said to Kerry, you know, maybe we could use more undesignated to get it to zero. And quite honestly, in fairness to you, Kerry, I've talked to a lot of people in the last week or so and told them we're at .30 for a mill rate increase. And they said, wow, that's damn good. You guys have done a marvelous job. So I know that you don't want to hear that, because there are still some people that are suffering and stuff, but you know, to Chris's point, I don't think we can get to zero. We tried as heck as we can, but I don't think the people are gonna be that disappointed if we can get it to .30 and keep it there without any additions after April 5th or whatever. So I don't know. And I know that's hard for you to hear too, Chris, but you know, we have to be realistic about it, that sooner or later there is gonna be a little bit of an increase. Now, when we first started at this .90, that was a $200 or something per person, per household increase. Now, if we knocked it down to .30, that's gotta be, I don't know, $75, $80 for the whole year for a tax increase? I mean, sooner or later, you divide that by 12, that's not very much a month.
I think that there's, you know, you say I won't like that. I think that different opinions are good. And-
No, I'm just saying, I know you'd like to use more of the undesignated, is what I mean by that, to get to zero.
My opinion is, you know, I know Chris is sick of listening to the undesignated fund. And I think that you should go to expenses, and I think we did a better job this year. And you guys get credit for, you know, cutting more than I would have cut. You did your job, you cut the expenses, and when all that's done, then it is time to talk about the undesignated fund, because that's all that's left. And I do think, I do personally target a mill rate to say, as another factor, once you have everything there, you say, all right, we've done all this work, you know, is there, what's the mill rate, what's the increase, and what would it take out of the undesignated fund to get to a not an increase, given the times that we're in, and what would that leave the surplus? So that's like everything that I put into the equation when and my personal opinion is I would like to see the mill rate flat. That's my opinion. But I understand,
So would I.
and I think the best thing I heard today was, you know, that I wasn't necessarily thinking, that Tom brought up was, you know, some big capital projects down the road. And, you know, that is a factor that we have to think about as well, you know, so. But I still would say a flat mill rate is what I would vote for, but I'm gonna be in the minority, so it doesn't really matter.
Listen, I don't think
I'd
anybody
like to
here,
get the flat.
everybody, you know, we talk about it every budget season, because it's since COVID, because everybody's struggling. So since it was COVID, you know, we've had the flat, and it was always because people are struggling. And then it became, well, it's not gonna be like this every year. But then unfortunately, it's been like this every year, because we have
It's been like
struggled,
this
and I
every
get
year
that.
Since I've been doing it.
Right, and I get it. I mean, so, there's no doubt that people are struggling, but the fact that we still have to look at is that we have to look out to the future at some point, instead of just looking year to year and saying, this is the year, it's the last year, then we're done, we're not gonna do it anymore, and then we're still in a recession or inflation next year. They're like, you know what, gotta do it again. So then how long are we gonna keep kicking that can down the road? So those are the, you know, those are just the thought, and again, the 5-year plan is important, looking at what we're gonna have to pay down the road. And that's why he does it. I mean, that's good financial responsible, fiscally responsible to forecast out 5 years so that we can plan for that. So that's sort of the future that we need to kind of look at and review as well. So, and it's like we do it every year. I mean, we go to the public hearing, we hear, we sit back down and we have the discussion and we make that final discussion. or the final decision. So, and these are good conversations.
Thank you for the conversation.
Good. I mean, that's the way they should be. So,
That's what we're here for.
Now we're done
share
talking about it.
ideas.
only kidding. Talk about it again April 5th.
April.
All right, on to number 10, Town Council Committee Liaison Reports. Anybody have anything to report?
I went to P and Z, and they are talking about zoning regs, the coastal resiliency group. Sorry, they talked about a lot, and I'm drawing a blank. But they're busy, and Abby is doing wonderful work for them, writing reports that are making their job a lot easier. Really comprehensive, beautiful reports.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else?
EDC met last night, and they'd like to have a presentation of their mission statement to the Board of, the Town Council. I don't know if they've contacted you or Carl yet as to, okay. They'd like to spend at least a half an hour to 45 minutes going over it, just let them know. I said, well, we have a meeting in the morning, I don't know if you want to do that, or we have another one in the evening.
We'll do evening.
Evening meeting? Yeah.
All right, so we're going to
They were looking for you last night.
You'll none down?
Yeah.
You were in Washington?
Yeah.
He's talking about something else. Okay. He's moved on.
Police meeting 2 nights ago. Things are going along as far as their budget's concerned, even with the shortage of help. Their overtime has not gone off the wall. They're really trying to control it. I guess they give a lot of credit to the 4 and 3 schedule that they have adopted. It's easier to fill in on these vacancies. A little bit of hope is that he's hoping that he can get a lateral transfer from another PD. That would help ease a little bit of the situation. And because, as we were talking about before, if you start a new recruit, which I guess today the 15th, right? I guess today they gave the exam over there at the police department.
Yeah.
And I think he said he had about 15 applicants, which was good.
That's good, yeah,
That's great.
Because some towns are getting 0.
yeah.
He had 15 for the expected to come today for the written exam. But even if we get them all, we get some good people, just remember, academy up at state police doesn't start until June. Count 48 weeks from June till you'll get those officers. So if these guys pass and get through all this other stuff in the next couple of months, and we can be fortunate enough to send them up to the academy, it's not like, okay, great, where's a rover? It's gonna take a little while. So anyway, there is some good news, I guess, in the horizon. Also, I guess, I think I told you this before, maybe I didn't, our regular police dog there, Sonny, he's due to retire. So, yeah, after X amount of years, and of course, things change, because if you remember, he had a dual thing, he was, whatever he does, a protective police officer, but he was also a cannabis smeller and stuff like that, and you can't have that anymore. That dog's gotta go. So, anyway, story short, I guess they'll be coming to us shortly. They have had permit, or they're gonna put in for a grant. Someone does have $10,000 as a grant, and he's gonna come to us for permission to go forward with that grant. I'm sure Mr. Kilduff already knows this. And hopefully we'll get that grant, and that'll ease the pain of getting our dog. Other than that,
Is it federal grant or state, do you know?
that.
Federal grant or state?
He didn't really say on the private, Hank, I didn't pick up on
Oh,
that.
private.
It's a private grant?
And then you said that, something about lending or borrowing a police officer from a neighboring town?
Not borrowing,
What is it?
Taking,
taking,
snatching.
Oh,
an officer
cheaper
quitting
than-
another
Stealing.
department
Cheaper.
and coming here.
Stealing?
No, it's not stealing, it's just,
It's
yeah.
offering them an opportunity.
Hey, there you go. I mean, I can't say what
Well, like
Where the-
Allison left us. to
where the
herself.
officer is, but maybe he's in a big city or something, and you don't want to be in that no more and get down here to the country bumpkins. I don't know, but we're getting up there in the crime rate, but anyway. So anyway, yeah, it's a lateral transfer, I should say.
Anybody else? Thank you, Dennis. Nope, good. All right, we'll move on to item number 11. 11, and need a motion to go into executive session and invite Carl and Mary.
That's the
So
way.
moved.
Second,
Harry, sure.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Fortunately,
Opposed,
the
abstained? No, good.
Family-
All right, we are back from executive session, and we're on to item number 12. We look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again, everyone.